everybody, it's Audrey. I'm going to be completing a tag that I was tagged in by Book Chat with Pat. It is the 101 Days of Summer tag. This is an original tag created by Dwayne at The Reading Room. I was tagged about 2.5, 3 weeks ago now. I have sort of fallen behind in watching YouTube and everything, getting settled into summer, and I realized today I am halfway through my summer break and need to start planning for the upcoming school year. So I need to start getting myself back on Booktube and making videos. But this is just a summer themed tag, and I figured with half of it left to go, I might as well complete it. So the first question is BBQ Time. Your favorite author invites you to a barbecue to announce their newest work. What do you hope they are announcing, and what do you bring to share? So the author that I'm picking for this, to me, is very obvious, and to anyone who knows me and knows my reading style, it's very obvious. That would be the author of The Hunger Games, Suzanne Collins. Now, I would hope any work that she announces is a work that I will read, that I will purchase, regardless, but I do hope for another prequel novel in the Hunger Games universe, just because that is a universe that I love. It is my favorite series of all time. The original trilogy and then the prequel novels, all of those are phenomenal. But any work by her, really, more specifically for the Hunger Games universe, I would really love a novel either about the rebellion itself, so about the dark days that led up to the creation of the actual Hunger Games, or something from, Finnick's perspective. I think that would be very impactful in today's society with what Finnick went through and what we're seeing right now. I would bring a pasta salad that my grandma made a bunch when I was little, when we would have barbecues and pool days at her house, but I would have to ask my family to get that recipe to me. But that would be what I bring to the barbecue with Suzanne Collins. The second question is road trip. Pick a real world setting from a recent or not so recent read. Where would the road trip take you? So already I'm breaking 2 questions in, and I'm breaking the rules with the book that I chose for this one other setting. I think real world kind of went over my head a little bit when I was writing down the questions and picking out my novels, but it's actually based on my current read, which is Heartless by Marissa Meyer. Not sure. I'm always wrong. Every single time I'm wrong. This one is based in the world of Alice in Wonderland, but it is about the Red Queen and how she became the Red Queen. So clearly I did not follow the rules when it said real world setting, but this would take me to Wonderland, and that is I grew up with Alice in Wonderland, the movies, the book. It's just something that I love, so that is where that road trip would take me, is into the world of Wonderland, and this is a retelling that I'm currently reading. Question 3 is camping. Do I rough it, so like a camp and a sleeping bag, or do I require amenities for camping? I have never been traditionally camping, but I will say that is not something that strikes my fancy. That is not something that I think I would enjoy. And then the second part is, do I think I would read more than usual? Probably. I would assume that in this camping setting, regardless of if I'm in a vacation home or not, there wouldn't be any internet, so I would definitely get some more reading done. The book I chose to mention for this question is a nonfiction book that I am currently working my way through. It is Turning to Birds by Lily Taylor. It is from the library. This is a nonfiction novel. It is a memoir, but it also talks about birds and bird conservation, and it really isn't something that I would typically pick up. But Lily Taylor, if you know, you know, will be playing Mags in the Sunrise on the Reaping film adaptation next year. And when I saw that she wrote a book, I was like, okay, I'm just going to pick it up and I'm going to read it. And I am loving this so far. If you had told me a month ago that there was a nonfiction book about birds, I would have been like, okay, that doesn't really seem like something I would enjoy. I am loving this, and it has made me stop and reflect a lot when I am in nature, and it's difficult because it is so hot where I am, but when I am outside, I am focusing more on, okay, like looking for the birds essentially and listening for them and observing their actions, because that's something that she talks about a lot in this book because she is so passionate about birds. And I would definitely recommend this. This is a very easy to read nonfiction novel as well, and I'm steadily working my way through it. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Question 4 is on festivals. You are going, or you're attending, a Booktube festival where dressing as one of your favorite literary characters is the only requirement. Who do you go dressed as and why? This was something that I really struggled with. Trying to find a fictional character who I strongly relate to, who has deeply impacted me, that already wasn't mentioned like in the Hunger Games. And so for that one, I did go with Hermione from Harry Potter. She was my favorite book character growing up as a kid. I'm compared to her a lot. I was compared to her a lot. So I just went ahead and I chose her. I think she's definitely, her character has made a big impact on me. I think Emma Watson is a wonderful person. So yeah, it was Hermione Granger for me from Harry Potter. Question 5 is slice of life. What is something others may consider simple or mundane, but is something you can't see a summer without? And my answer for that is rest. That may seem very generic, and like for some people, especially people who may still be in school or who work in schools, it's like, yeah, the summer is for resting and recharging. Like a lot of people might be like, duh. But for me, I think that is something that's very important, because I've found that every summer since I've started teaching formally, I've really struggled with allowing myself to rest. And, you know, I have all these things I want to do. Like I want to finish my kitchen. I want to read as many books as I can over the summer. I want to set up my office space. I want to write my own novel. But it's really, I can't cram every single thing I want to do within a short 2-month period, or I'm not going to rest and recharge myself to be ready to go back to work. And the book I chose to mention I've never read before, but I saw it and I was like, I guess, and that is My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I've never read it. All I know is that this has very, very mixed reviews, and based on the books that have been recommended to me that I've read that are compared to this one, I'm not sure if I'm going to like it very much. But I was like, okay, Year of Rest and Relaxation. The word rest is in the title. So I chose this one for that. The next question is scary story. Which author would I want to go camping with, knowing that I would want to hear the scariest story they can tell around the campfire? I don't read a lot of horror novels, and I think I went off on a tangent about this in my Booktube newbie tag video. So for this, although some people might not classify her writing as horror, maybe more thriller or sci-fi or something like that, I went with Ling Ling Huang. She wrote Natural Beauty, which is one of my book club books, I believe, in the month of April. And she had another book come out that is on my TBR called Immaculate Conception. And I loved this one. It just felt very refreshing. Some people call it like a palate cleanser. I'm someone who reads fantasy very heavily and constantly, like I was reading the Poppy War series and Throne of Glass at the same time, so I was just getting bombarded with these brand new worlds. So to have this be my book club book was great, because this is a novel that has commentary on the beauty industry, like the current beauty industry, but it also has body horror and just some interesting and, you know, upsetting and scary things happen to the main character. And I've heard that her new novel has things like that, or themes like that as well, relating to female friendship. So I think that although her story might not be necessarily what you would consider scary, it would be very interesting for me to see her commentary on something that is a problem in society nowadays, but with a twist on it to make you think, and you're like, oh, that's awful, but how different is that from things that are already happening, and how close are we to this being our reality? Question 7 was on first loves and summer crushes. A romantic interest during the summer often leads to a bittersweet ending or a lasting impact. Which do I prefer to read, and how does the age of the characters affect my opinion? So I'm not someone who reads a lot of romance novels. Those just aren't books that are very interesting to me. A lot of times I feel like it feels very static if there's not something else going on in the plot and it's not done well. But the two romance novels that you know, kind of that this prompt made me think of were Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins, which I don't have a copy of, but I do have a copy of Lola and the Boy Next Door by her, which is the only book by her I have not read. And then Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. So obviously, if you've read Me Before You, you know it has a very devastating ending. I won't even say it's bittersweet. It's very devastating. I adored this book. As sad as it was, I just found myself falling in love with it. And the movie is wonderful too. And I feel as though I do prefer a novel then with a more adult characters, I suppose. The ending for me doesn't really matter. I do prefer a happy ending because then it does leave me more satisfied, unless the bittersweet or sad ending is done right. With this one, I remember being very frustrated. I read this when I was 15, so it's been several years since I read this. I remember being very frustrated because I was like, we just went through all of this for what happens in the end to end. But as I've reflected on it and as I've grown older and had my own experiences, it was the most realistic. Age-wise, like I said, I do prefer characters who are adults, just because I find that with novels that have younger characters who are in, high school or even very young adults like in college or my age, I tend to get very frustrated, I suppose, because I feel as though, and this could be wrong, this could be just a generalization based on the books that I have read, I find that the writing can be very juvenile and it's just not realistic for what being in relationships in high school is like, or in college, or in early adulthood. And perhaps that's me being a pessimist, but it's more so like, you guys are 16 years old and this guy just cheated on his girlfriend for you and you're supposed to be happily ever after. Like, and that is like a real example I pulled from Anna and the French Kiss. Actually, I don't even remember if at the end they get together or not. All I remember is that I read it when I was 13 years old in 2 sittings, and it was the best thing ever. And then I revisited it this summer going into my last year of college, and I just sat there and I was like, what was so good about this that had 8th grade me, like 14-year-old me, kicking her feet up and like giggling about? I was like, this guy is cheating on his girlfriend and then now he wants to be with you, but he doesn't know. Like, so for me, it just feels like anything with teenagers or with a young adult, it's going to have, I suppose, behaviors you would say are red flags nowadays that I just can't get behind and support. So that really just turns me off from the whole book itself. I did start reading Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I was listening to the audiobook on Libby, and then I accidentally returned it, and there are 483 people ahead of me. And I was really enjoying it, and I meant to renew it, but it returned it, so I am going to be waiting probably another year to be able to finish that one, unless I am able to get a physical copy of it from the library. But I did really like that one from what I read. But it also was more focused on the plot than the romance. So I don't know if you would classify it as a romance other than the fact that it was written by Emily Henry, whose books I have not read other than parts of Great Big Beautiful Life. We have 2 more. Number 8 is nostalgia. So what book or books instill in you an overwhelming sense of summer nostalgia? And I thought that this one would be the one that I broke the rules on. I thought that I was going to make it to the end without breaking the rules, but unfortunately that was my question number 2, because it's not a book, it's a poem, and it's a very well-known one that has been on my mind recently. It's one that I had to analyze in college. It is incredibly popular. I'm sure everyone who's watching this knows what it is, and that is Nothing Gold Can Stay by Robert Frost. And I haven't read the poem in a very long time, since, you know, I was in my second year in my English literature course, like my critical writing course. I haven't read it since then, but just remembering what it made me think about and the feelings that it ignited in me, and I feel like Nothing Gold Can Stay is oftentimes up for such debate, because I'm someone who thinks, you know, there's no one real meaning of a poem. Yes, there's the author, like what the author was trying to say, right, but your interpretation is as good as the next person's. And I think maybe that is because I studied English in college, and I am an English teacher who is going to be teaching poetry and plays and that, and novels. So I'm someone where if my student can argue something and prove it, who are they to be wrong, you know, if they're able to prove their argument? So for me, it's talking about, you know, like all these good things, they're gonna go away someday. And that reminds me of the summertime a lot, because especially now, knowing that I only have a month of summer left, it's like, it's a fleeting feeling for me. It's like, oh my gosh, like all of this is going to be gone soon. Like I need to soak it all in now, because it's going to be gone before I know it, you know, not summer the season, but summer the break off of working. And that's just a feeling I've had every summer, is the countdown to going back to school as a student, to going back to work now as a teacher. It's something that has stuck with me. Any other novels I could think of for nostalgia would just be those children's chapter books like the Berenstain Bears, the Little Critter series, all of the books that I would read when I was younger at my grandma's house. And then the last one is summer stories, which is what is a book or books I'd recommend where the summertime is the primary focus. And I don't have copies of these books anymore. I'm not sure where they went. But Since You've Been Gone and The Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson. I actually have one of her books I have not read behind me. And I could be wrong. I did read these novels years and years and years ago. But these are some great YA novels that talk about friendship or hardships in your life. And I love Morgan Matson as an author, so even if Since You've Been Gone doesn't take place in the summer like I think it does, I'm still going to recommend it because I think it is a great contemporary young adult novel. Anything by Morgan Matson really are novels that, even if they don't explicitly take place in the summertime, and maybe this is a better answer to the last question, but they really just emulate the feeling of summer in the books. So anything by Morgan Matson. And I think that was every question. This is actually my first tag that I'm doing that I've been tagged in, you know, Booktube newbie tag. It was just a, hi, I'm here. So it's been fun doing this tag and getting myself invested a little bit more in the Booktube community. I wanted to start a posting schedule, like, oh, I'll post every Saturday and I'll do this, this, and this. And I quickly realized that that just was not sustainable for myself. If I am going to sit down in front of my camera and talk, I have to be in the mood for it, or it's not going to be genuine and it's not going to be fun for me. So I kind of just do it when I have the time, I'm willing, I've gotten ready for the day, there's nothing else I can do. Like right now, I'm waiting on the bread I'm baking for my dinner tonight to be ready. But thank you everyone so much for watching. If you are watching this and you want to do this tag, here is my verbal tagging you. I don't really know how this works other than mentioning them in my description or in the video, and I'm just going to mention them in my description. So thank you, Dwayne, for creating this tag. Thank you, Book Chat with Pat, for tagging me in this, and I will see you all whenever I do. I will see you all next time.